Hello and welcome to the course about LinkedIn personal branding. My name is Katrina Kurt and I will be your guide. I will tell you more about this topic. I will lead you along the way and I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready to learn more about the ways of personal branding, about the tactics, about your profile and much more. So get yourself a cup of coffee, tea or water, get comfortable and let's begin this course. So the very first thing on our agenda is of course to understand what are the topics that we will be deep diving today. So first of all, we will start with personal branding on LinkedIn, what it is, and what kind of words you can associate with personal branding, how to define it. Then we will move on and talk about LinkedIn Social Selling Index, what it is and what you can get out of it. We will talk about your profile optimization and examples. We'll deep dive into content creation. Of course, that's a very important part of personal branding. We'll talk about the importance of engagement, how to grow your network, how to build a community and an engaging audience. And of course, we'll talk briefly about making data-driven decisions and then also social media etiquette, especially when it comes to LinkedIn and LinkedIn's engagement. So this is the agenda we have for this course. During the course, you can always ask your questions. You can leave them throughout different parts of the course. You can also check out the additional materials added to this course, and I hope you're ready. So as you already know, my name is Katrina Kurt. So for the last 8-9 years, my whole world was spinning around LinkedIn. I fell in love with the platform and I really saw a lot of potential that it can bring to people, a lot of opportunities that it brought to myself. And for the last several years, I'm the founder of a company called Linkedist. And this is the course brought to you by Linkedist team and myself included. And if we're not connected on LinkedIn, then of course, feel free to send me a message. I've been living in different markets, doing business, as you can see, Denmark, Lithuania, and Switzerland. I'm originally from Lithuania, Vilnius. And if you are ever around, give me a call, send me a message, and I would love to meet. Other than that, together with the team, we're very involved in various startup accelerators and we also work with corporates. So all the knowledge that we put in this course comes from working both with very big companies and then at the same time with like small one-person teams, startups, and so forth. So I hope you enjoy. And again, it's so lovely to meet you. And as I mentioned, here you can see all the companies or a fraction actually of the companies that we most recently worked with. And again, as I mentioned, all the knowledge will be applied throughout this course. So I hope you can see some recognizable logos, companies that will also give you the motivation to move further. And if you're in the same industry, it can also be an inspiration for you. My first question to you is, how often do you use LinkedIn? So just try to, pause the video or take a couple of minutes just to understand where you are. Are you using LinkedIn every day? Do you use it like once a week? Do you use it like once a month? And you're just in the very beginning of your journey. Just to understand how you feel about this. And depending how often you use it, of course, that definitely influences your results and influences how many, for example, profile views you have and whatnot. So try to think about that and then take that with you further along this course. Let's start with personal branding, what it really means, how to use it for your own benefits, and why a lot of people these days are talking about personal branding. Before we start talking about it, I want to play a short game with you. So this is a person that you're seeing right now in your screen, and try to guess who is this person that you see the blurred photo of? So this is just level 1. Might be very simple to some, but try to guess who this person is. You can pause the video as well. So now let's move on to the level 2. Try to guess who this person is. I'll give you a little bit of time. Also, you can again pause the video and think about it, but it should be pretty quick, either you know this person or you don't. And then let's see what the level 3 is hiding. Again, do you know who this person is? Can you recognize these 3 people by these blurred images of them? Okay, now I'll go and reveal all the 3 people that we had in this slide. So it's of course Steve Jobs, Simon Sinek, and Angela Merkel. So with this little game, I really wanted to show you that personal branding is something that is really, really important, especially if you have big dreams, big goals, if you want to be recognized as a professional in your industry. It really makes a difference. And even with a blurred photo, you can recognize some of these people just because of the very strong personal brands that they have. And this is exactly what one way we can look at personal branding, in a way that people really recognize you, and not only by the achievements that you have, by the LinkedIn posts, but also by your looks, right? That's one way to look at your personal brand. In simple words, personal branding is divided into 2 parts. One is, where you really look deep into how you look outside physically, how you shake somebody's hand, how you say hello, how you dress, and so forth, right? So it's all to do with how you communicate and look like in the real world. Now, the other part I will tell you in a bit. So let's move on. The very first question that I have to you before I tell you more is, do you have a personal brand? Just by the way you understand your personal brand right now, how you feel about it, do you have it or do you not? Try to think about it and see how you feel. Most of the times when I do these workshops, when my team members do these workshops, we often see like 50 people in the audience, in the auditorium, and out of 50 people, there are usually 5 to 10 people who raise their hands when I ask this question. So the truth is that all of us have a personal brand, and it's not a question anymore whether you have it or not. We all do. If you have some kind of presence online, that is already shaping your personal brand. So remember, just a couple of minutes ago, I was telling you more about, the physical part of your personal brand. Now, especially when the COVID hit the world, a lot of people were not able to meet each other, and us included, right? And so a lot of professionals realized how important it is to have a strong presence on LinkedIn, a strong personal brand online. So the virtual personal brand became even more significant than the physical one. So all of our personal brands are divided into 2 parts, the physical one and then the virtual one. The virtual one is including all of your social media accounts. So it's not only your LinkedIn account, it's also your Twitter account, it's also your YouTube channel, it's also your Facebook account, Instagram, and whatnot, right? So all the data, all the information that you have about yourself online, that is shaping your personal brand. Now, the question is, are you taking care of your brand? Are you making sure that all the information about yourself that is out there is the right information, is the information that will create a good impression of you? So this is what personal branding really means. And these days, also by taking this course, you're already starting to take care of your online image. And why do you need to take care of it? Again, first of all, you're showing your expertise, you're showing your value, right? As a professional. You're also increasing the exposure for your own profile, but also for your employer, for the organization that you're working at, or for somebody, maybe you're building your own business, then you're increasing the exposure for your own company. You're also you're able to achieve your goals, both like personal goals and organizational goals, easier. So let's say you have a personal goal to become a speaker at a specific conference. Now, having a strong personal brand will definitely help you to get there. The same goes with organizational goals. Let's say that one of your organizational goals is to promote your organization's brand, have more followers, or let's say one of the goals is to sell to a new client, to a big prospect. So these goals can also be achieved with the help of LinkedIn and having a strong brand. And again, if you have like an optimized profile, which we will go through today, and you'll or not today, maybe you're doing this course in like a couple of different batches, but you will go through the profile optimization part in this course. And by just doing that, you will already double the amount of profile views on your profile. And when you're sleeping, your profile is going to be working for you. So these are some of the main reasons why we need to start taking care of our personal brands. And in simple words, your brand is your reputation, right? So whatever you have about yourself online is a part of your reputation, and people really can create a specific image in their minds, in their heads about you just from the information that they find on the internet. And I would say that even more than 85% of times people meet us virtually first. So this means that even before they go for that coffee meeting with you, they actually check out your LinkedIn, they check out what you have been doing in your previous jobs, what is your like education, how many people, how many mutual connections you have, and so forth, right? So a lot of people, even if meeting us in the real world, they still check our social media accounts. And another thing that I want to mention as well when it comes to personal branding. So, first of all, LinkedIn has done this questionnaire where they asked a lot of different questions about thought leadership. And the questionnaire was made for decision makers, so like middle management and senior management people. And two things that really stand out is, first of all, when it comes to earning trust, it's 89% of all the decision makers from the questionnaire that actually say that organizations where thought leadership is present have more trust. Like they have more trust in those organizations. And this really shows that if you have people who are working at an organization being active on LinkedIn, on the platform, this really helps like other companies trust the organization much more, because they know that if something goes down, they know whom to talk to, right? Like they know the people behind the brand, and they know that they have nothing to hide, and they're like public people and they're open to chatting and you can reach them, right? So it's very simple. And then the other statistic or the other finding was that 49% of all the decision makers actually said that thought leadership, which is having a strong brand and creating content, really can drive sales and can influence B2B decisions. So this also means that if somebody is, let's say, trying to make a decision whether to choose one organization or the other, and they see that one of the organizations has like a lot of people present online, they're communicating, they're sharing what they're building, they're being super transparent, that will definitely influence their buyer decision and will help them to choose the organization that is communicating. Because again, you're trusting that organization much more, right? And that organization is more visible, so it reminds you constantly about the decision that you're thinking about to make. So these are two extra facts, additional information that I wanted to share with you, which I think is, again, showing us the reasons behind having a strong personal brand that is not only to brag or to show off or something else, right? It's a lot about benefits, and benefits not only for you but also for the organization that you're working at. And another statistic that I wanted to share was there was a research done by a company in Holland called Connected Circles, and they were looking at the overall company brand versus the C-level top management people who are also communicating. And these are a few examples. So as you can see in this first one, the organization, the big bank in the UK called Santander, had over 1 million followers as a company page. And their chair, Anna, she had 289,000 followers on LinkedIn at the time. And still, on average, every time she would make a post, she would get 2,000% more engagement than a post on the company page. Now, this really showed us that, okay, so there's definitely correlation between, like a person and the organization, and when they communicate, they can bring better results. But also, personal profiles have way bigger impact. Let's take a look at another example. I bet all of you know Volkswagen, right? So Volkswagen, again, at the point of research, as a company page, they had around 861,000 followers. Their chairman, Herbert, he had around 114,000 followers. Now, still, on average, every time he would get around 400% more engagement on his personal posts. And final example that I wanted to share with you comes from IKEA. Again, everybody's beloved and known brand, right? So at a point of research, IKEA had over 1.6 million followers. That's like a lot, right, for a company page. And their CEO, Jesper, he had around 37,000 followers. Now, still, every time he would make a post, on average, he would get around 300% more engagement. So really, this whole research showed us that, hey, like people profiles, they generate more engagement, they're more visible. And in general, if you would scroll through your newsfeed, you would see that actually during the first like 3 to 4, 5 minutes that you're scrolling, you're mostly seeing actually not company content, even if you're following some companies. 90% of all the content that you see is people content. So your connection liked something, commented somewhere, created a post, reposted, reshared, right? So all of that. After a while of scrolling, you start seeing company content and like start seeing company content that you follow. But that happens after a while. So LinkedIn is not like proactively promoting company content right away as much as it is promoting people content and what people are doing on the platform. And if we're looking at LinkedIn as a platform, of course, right now it has over 1 billion users in more than 200 countries. And really, it's the biggest professionals network social media platform that there is. There have been multiple attempts, for like other platforms, for other social media, tools and marketplaces and network platforms. But so far, like LinkedIn still stays the same, and there's not really any other competition. And as from what we're seeing right now, there's a lot of new users joining from South America, from Africa, Asian countries. So it's great to see that the whole world is like emerging and joining in this one beautiful platform. But I might be biased, so let's see. And one more fact, one more statistic for you that I'm sharing here today is also there was another research where they looked at, for example, the brand versus like leader or the CEO and the amount of comments a post generates. So as you can see, again, people like talking with people, people engage with conversations with other people. So in this case, like all the comments, most of the comments are coming under the personal profiles, under the profiles of the CEOs, the founders, instead of on the company page. So again, try to see like your own channel as a place to also portray what you do, but also what your company does, what your organization does, and to help the organization as well. Right now, I have a short exercise. So try to think about what are one to two or even more keywords you want to associate yourself with. This is very important because we'll need it for the next part of the course. So, as an example, if somebody thinks of LinkedIn, I want them to think of me or one of my colleagues. If somebody thinks of sales, maybe, there's this guy Thomas, whom, people can think of. If somebody thinks of finance, investing, maybe there's Peter or Anna that people can think about, right? So try to think about what are the keywords, the some specific industry terms that you would like to associate yourself with, and then what would you like people to search by on LinkedIn and find your profile by those words. So this is a short exercise. Again, you can pause this for as long as you need, and we'll need this for the second part of the course. And again, when you're thinking about your personal brand, these are some of the things that I want to give you as homework to think about in your spare time. So, first of all, how do you want to be remembered, right? So, again, I just mentioned which themes or topics do you want to be related to, which keywords, right? What is your tone of voice, right? So, is it restrained? Is it brave, emotional, friendly, always happy, generic, let's say, very, focused, determined kind of a tone? So, try to think about this because this is also very important. And then, who is your target audience, right? So, like, which people do you want to reach, and do you have those people in your network already, or do you need to do a little bit of homework and add some new people, some new folks into your network? So this is what I'm leaving you with for this first part, and this is a little homework for you to really think more deeply about your personal brand and how you want to be perceived. Sounds simple? I know it's not, but that's what it comes down to. Let's talk about social selling index, what it really is, what does it mean when it comes to your personal branding, and where can you find it. So let's get to it. First of all, if you want to find your social selling index, which I really encourage right now before we move on into talking about what it really means, you can either go to Google and write social selling index and try to, find the very first two links. And one of the links that you would open would look like the one you see right now on the screen, and you can click on get your score. If you are a Sales Navigator user, you can also find it on your Sales Navigator. But for all the other people, you can only find it through Google. It's not anywhere on LinkedIn, and that's how you can access your score. So when you get to this page, you need to click on Get Your Score and see what is your current social selling index. What is the number there? And we'll talk about it just right next in the next slide. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. You can also pause this video, and then once you find it, let's talk about what it really means. Okay, so let's talk about social selling index. I hope you all found it, and let's see what it really means. So first of all, let's take a look at the current social selling index. It is made out of four components. That's making your score, right? The total score is 100 out of 100, and the lowest is of course 0. But nobody has 0 because if you have an account, you already have more than that. So, the very first component is called Establish Your Professional Brand. And this one is really measuring how strong your personal brand is. Meaning, if you have an optimized profile, are you creating content? Do people engage with your content? And so forth, right? So, it's like the overall image, not only your profile, but also your activity, your content. And all of that is being measured by the very first component. Establish your professional brand. The second one, the purple one, is called Find the Right People. This one is, can be more applied to people who work within sales. But this one is initially measuring the way that if you're doing search on LinkedIn, are you finding the people that you're looking for and are you connecting with them, right? So this is what it is measuring. The third one is called Engage with Insights. So this one is basically measuring whether or not you're engaging with other people on the platform, their content, whether you're leaving a like, leaving a comment, reposting and whatnot, right? So for most of the times, this one is the lowest score. Try to see what it is for yourself. But this one is also the easiest to boost, right? Because if you start engaging right away, this score will increase and your index will be higher. The final point is called Build Relationships, and this one is really measuring if you are responding to messages that you get on LinkedIn, if you're accepting people requests, if you're sending a message when you're connecting with somebody. And in this case, if it's a lower score, try to see if you have like some unanswered requests, because if those requests are piling up in your inbox and you're neither accepting, neither rejecting them, then it actually decreases your score. And for those people who are a bit unsure about this, actually, if you reject somebody, if you don't accept their invitation, they're not getting any kind of notification. It's totally fine, and they won't be able to invite you at least for the next couple of weeks. So don't be afraid of it. Try to clean up your connection requests inbox, and this will definitely help. So there are two other analytics, two other numbers that you want to look at. First of all is people in your industry, and basically this number is measuring like the average index of people from your industry. So you can compare yourself with like what's the average and what is your score. So for example, in this case, the average is 36 and I have 82, which means that I'm in the top one industry SSI rank. And this basically means that if somebody is looking for people from my industry and is choosing my location, my profile will be in the very first search pages. So this is where social selling index comes in handy and helps to understand like why it is important to have a higher number. Then the other number is people in your network, so you can really compare yourself with the average social selling index of people from your network, and again see like where you are when it comes to that. And in general, this is not really something that will change something for you, but it can help you understand where you're at, right? So it can help you understand like if you need to do some improvements with your profile, or are you good? Should you post more, or are you good? Should you maybe invite more people to your network, or if it's all good? So all of these things definitely like come in handy, and especially like social selling index. And again, this index is being updated every single week, so you can take a screenshot and then let's say you optimize your profile, start being more active, and then again check out like how the index has changed. Another thing when it comes to the index is that for people who work in sales and work with LinkedIn every day, let's say you work with B2B sales, and also I would say the same goes for marketing people, it's usually expected to have somewhere between like 55 to or 60 to 75, right? For like marketing people who don't use it every day, it's okay to have like 50, 55. If you use it like every day, if that's your main platform to do marketing for the company, for yourself, then I would say like 60 is a good number. For salespeople who are doing outreach, who are doing sales through LinkedIn, it's really important to have around 60 and 70 as the social selling index. For the rest of us, it's best to, compare yourself with the people in your industry and make sure that you have at least slightly higher, if not more like higher index than the average of the industry, because this means that your profile will be more exposed and more shown in the search when it comes to, people looking up other people from the industry. So this is what social selling index is. You know where to find it now, you know how to access it, and again, you can easily check it after a week, see how it's changing depending on different actions that you take on LinkedIn. We already covered what it means to have a strong personal brand. We already talked about social selling index. And now let's finally talk about your profile optimization. What are the different areas you can optimize, how you can do that, and what are some of the really good examples that I want to share with you. So let's go. So the very first thing is, of course, your profile is made out of all of these different sections, and we'll go one by one and discover what you can do in every single section and how you can make sure that all of your profile is filled out, where you can add the information needed, and that it's also looking presentable. And when we're doing this, what we're initially trying to do is, of course, to take your profile from the profile on the left of the slide, which is not looking good, which does not attract attention, right? To make sure that your profile is looking like something on the right, a profile which attracts attention, which is all filled out, and it's pretty simple and easy to understand what the person is doing, where they're working, and it's very, it's a very filled out profile that gives a good impression. You have now got the knowledge about personal branding, about your personal profile and how to optimize it. Now let's talk about the content creation, which is a very natural next step when we're talking about a strong personal brand and a person who wants to be known in a specific industry. Content creation is something that naturally comes as a next step and naturally something that you have to do if you want to be noticed, if you want to be recognized. So first of all, what are the main struggles when we're talking about content creation? One is time management. Then we have idea generation, and we have self-motivation and imposter syndrome. So with time management, a couple of advice from my side is that what really helps is to actually put in a time slot in your calendar and treat this as work, because else it's very difficult to find time, right? You need to make time for this. And some people do it throughout the week. Some people, like myself, for example, I like to use Sunday evenings to prepare my content for the upcoming week. So try to see which strategy works best for you. But again, if you are not going to be serious about this, if you're not going to put it in your calendar, it will be difficult to find time because it will always be something you will push away, right, from your daily tasks and daily things. When it comes to idea generations, I have a couple of strategies that I'll be sharing in the following slides, so stay tuned. And then when it comes to self-motivation and imposter syndrome, again, you have to understand and really talk with yourself about what is the reason why you're doing this, right? I remember when I myself started, when some other people started, some clients, some team members started posting on LinkedIn, there were some people from our close circles who were not really, encouraging and allowing themselves to write or say some specific comments, which were not always nice. But at the end of the day, if you know that you're not creating this content for your friends or for your family members, if you're creating this content for people within your industry, for other professionals, for somebody who's maybe on the other side of the world and is following you and wanting to read more of your posts, then you have a different look at it, right? And again, people can be mean, and especially like people from your close circle, but once people see that you're serious and you're dedicated and consistent, they will become followers instead of haters, and with the imposter syndrome, there's no other way than just to start and kind of force yourself to make that very first post and the second and the third until it all becomes a habit. Because when it becomes a habit, just like with anything else, like exercising, it's easy, it comes naturally. So the same here, like you have to make sure that content creation becomes your weekly habit and something that you do to help yourself grow and go ahead and reach those goals that you want to reach. When we talk about content creation, the very first thing that I want to address is, of course, the structure of your post. There are various ways, and we have an amazing ebook for copywriting with all the hooks and all the ways how you can start your post. So I won't be deep diving into that because there's material ready for you already. But when we're talking about a post, there are some specific points that have to be in the post. So one thing is you have to have an advice, story, or material or something you want to share. That's the first step, right? So in this case, as in the example, we had a great event, and that's our event, that's our story that we want to share. The next thing is you want to make sure that you have something to talk about, something that you have learned, or you can give your advice or opinion, right? At the end of the day, people don't really care as much about that you were somewhere or that you're sharing something as much as they care about your own thoughts and your own take on it. So it's very important that you're not only writing about something that happened or something you want to share, but you're also mentioning what's your take on it. And then finally, tagging companies and personal profiles that have something to do with it. So again, in this example, like for example, thanking others for the event and whatnot, right? So this is important for your engagement and that it will boost your post in general. So this is a simple structure. It doesn't have to look like this, but these are some of the components that you should have in your post. And the very secret formula, which is not so secret anymore, is if you want to have a great post, like these are some of the things you have to pay attention to. So for example, authenticity, right? Your post is not a post that you copied from somebody else. Your post is unique, is authentic, and that's like the very first thing that you have to think about. You're not copying somebody's content. It gives value to your readers, to people who spend time on reading it. You're tagging people who are connected with your post. The structure is very good and easy to understand. So it's not just like one paragraph, but there's like smaller ones to help people read it through, like skim read faster. And then once in a while, you have a question. Not always, not in every single post, but like once in a while, it's all right to try to engage your audience. And if you have a piece of content which is already like amazing in itself, probably a viral piece, then none of this matter. None of these points here in this slide really matter. But for 90% of our posts which are not viral, these are some of the things to think about. So here is an example how this formula works or looks in action. First of all, this post that I made was authentic, so I made it myself, did not copy, it was original. I tagged the author and the source of this article that I read. And the value was that, I read something on Harvard Business Review, and then I talked about it and I shared those facts, and I discussed about those facts that I found out. I also shared my own opinion here, and the structure was very easy to read. Like, you see a lot of smaller paragraphs, shorter sentences, and then at the end I had a simple question, thoughts, right? So this is how it looks in action. And again, there's various ways how you can structure your posts, but these are some of the points that are important for every single content creator. When it comes to tactics, when it comes to, best practices, there are a few things you should know. So first of all, the most active days are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but it doesn't mean that if you post on a Monday or on Friday or during the weekend, people won't read your posts and they won't get a lot of impressions. Sometimes the opposite happens, but the most active days are these. Then when it comes to time, the best time is actually to post in the morning, because then your post has a full day to perform and be visible to your audience. Sometimes people post in the evening and they won't get that much engagement as if, for example, they would have posted the same post in the morning. So morning time, during lunch break, or at the end of the working day. When it comes to frequency, it really depends on your goals. So if you want to stay active, you can post one time per week. You can also comment a lot and not post at all. That also helps. If you want to create a strong brand, 2-3 times per week is needed. And if you want to really boost your engagement and become like a person whose profile is like a go-to place for something, for like the latest news, then 3-4 times per week is something you can go for. We have also did some research with our audiences, and again, as you can see here in the first example, I asked people how much time do they spend on LinkedIn on the weekend, and more than 50% of those almost 800 votes actually said that they spend up to 1 hour on LinkedIn on the weekend, which is quite a lot. So again, don't be discouraged not to post during the weekend. Then we also had like other around 30% of people saying 2 to 4 hours, and then some like 6% saying 5 and more, and 13% saying no LinkedIn on the weekend. The funny thing was that this whole questionnaire, this whole poll was made during the weekend, so there's 13% of these people did not want to accept that they were on LinkedIn on the weekend. But again, you can see that people are hanging out on LinkedIn during the weekends. And when I asked them, when do you scroll on LinkedIn? Again, 50% said morning, so I'm up to date, which is again why we're recommending like morning times for posting. 12% at lunchtime, and 39% evening when I finish work. So sometimes evening posts do well too, but not as often as the ones we post in the morning. And here are 3 more facts that I want you to know. So first of all, around 70% of decision makers research during their workday, meaning they're active on LinkedIn during the workday, right? They're researching. So if you're posting, if you're messaging, that's like there's a good chance that they will see it. More than 70% of decision makers research during the evening. So again, your post can do really well during the day and still get the exposure in the evening. And then around 50% of decision makers research during the weekends. So don't be discouraged. Again, try and experiment and try making at least one post during the weekend to see how it performs.
When we're talking about content creation, of course, one of the most important things to address is content types. So a lot of the times when I'm talking with content creators, they often say that they start with text or video format or image format, but there are many more content types that you can utilize to make sure that you make your content interesting and you keep your audience on their toes. So first of all, of course, we have text. content type, which is one of the most popular formats. And it's simply just writing a piece of content and just simply using text as your content type. Then we also have repost and repost with thoughts. So, what's the difference between a repost and a repost with thoughts? The difference is that when you're reposting something and you're simply clicking to repost, it means that all the impressions, all the likes, all the comments, they will appear under the original post. It won't be your own original post. It will be like a repost where you're redirecting all the audience, all the viewers towards the original post, and you're helping the author get more views. Now, when you're reposting with thoughts, it means that basically you're creating like your own original organic content. Well, I wouldn't say it's original, but it will appear as an organic post, meaning that you can add your own text, you can add your own comment, you can add your own hashtags, and then underneath all of that, there will be the post that you're resharing. And all the impressions, views, likes, comments, they all will come to your post and won't be redirected towards the original one. So this is the difference, and these are three different types that you can definitely explore. We also have documents. So when it comes to documents, it's important to remember that it's a PDF format file that you can upload to your LinkedIn post, and people can scroll through it, look at it as a presentation. It's very popular, especially because people are scrolling on their mobile devices. So when they see a document post, they can swipe to the side, which is something that we all do on different social medias. And then another thing about documents is that people can download them. So, and that's if you want people to have your ebook or to have your report, they can download it directly and you can have your contact information at the end of it. We also have video format content types, which is pretty self explanatory, right? You just upload a video. Usually, I wouldn't say that the best format is to upload a long form video. It really depends on what you're trying to say, but remember that the attention span is very short these days, so I would try to keep it short. We also have picture and text, which is, I believe, one of the most popular content types. There are also LinkedIn Lives. So if you want to do a live video stream, you can do that on LinkedIn too. All you need to do is get a license or a free trial with one of the third party tools approved by LinkedIn, and you can connect your account, and that's about it. Then there are also audio events. Now, these are hosted directly on the platform. You don't have to get any third party tools. And the good thing is that you don't have to do much preparation because this is just an audio event where people are listening in, and you don't have to do any, camera recordings. You don't have to prepare all the lights and all the surroundings. You can just sit back and just talk about the things that you care about and also invite other people. Uh, if you're participating at an audio event, if you're listening in, you can also ask a question yourself. So there are all of these opportunities. And then we have events. So if you have an event that you're organizing offline, you can always post it on LinkedIn and people can click attend. You can also make it gated, so they have to submit their email and so forth, right? So it's another type of content that you can experiment with if you have some events happening in the real life. Outsource links is again another content type. The thing is that most people, they actually don't include a link in their post because LinkedIn doesn't really like when you redirect people from their platform to some other ones. But once in a while, it's okay to do so. If you are doing it often, I would recommend just having the URL in the comment section to avoid having like less views and less engagement. There are also LinkedIn polls. So when it comes to LinkedIn polls, just remember that the easier the question is, the shorter it is, the easier for people it is to understand it. Maybe in like the first 3 seconds, the more votes you will get. And the more generic your question is, again, the more votes you will get too. Gallery is so far the most popular and the best content type right now, because if you upload multiple pictures, it allows you to tag multiple people under different pictures. It also allows people to go through the pictures and see what you've been up to. And the more people scroll and the more people click, the more engagement you get. And so LinkedIn is kind of boosting all the gallery posts because people are just scrolling a lot and checking, looking at the photos. So I highly recommend trying gallery posts. Also, when we're talking about content types, remember that you can write articles. So if the time comes and you feel like you have more to say than LinkedIn post allows you to write, then I would recommend going forward and writing an article. Just remember that when it comes to articles, it is a content type which is not generating views right away, but it is generating views and engagement throughout a longer period of time. One more content type is newsletters. So, just like right now, what you see on the slide, you can also have your own newsletter, whatever the topic you decide to choose. You can always check even before choosing if there are any similar ones, and you can easily generate subscribers. However, it's not as good as like other tools like Substack. It's very simple. But if you want to create that community around your brand, then newsletters is definitely something you can try out, and people can subscribe. And when they are subscribed, they get a notification on LinkedIn, and they also get your newsletter sent to their email. When we're talking about content creation, it is also important to know that sometimes we all struggle with ideas, with knowing where to start, and also how to create content when you're feeling stuck. So, these are a few content creation strategies that I wanted to share with you and recommend you, and maybe and hopefully, this will help you out the next time you are struggling with content creation. So, let's go and let's check all of these strategies one by one. First strategy is called repurposing. So in this case, what you see here is that we had a blog. Out of that blog, we got an idea to actually create an audio event. We did that. We shared, all of us, some of us in the team, we shared the event on our personal profiles, which allowed us to have a piece of content going out. And then after the audio event, we also made another blog post, right? So we reused all the information that was mentioned in the audio event and made another blog post. So what I'm trying to show you is that sometimes you don't have to try create something new. You can repurpose what you've already made, maybe half a year ago, maybe even longer ago, and or you can actually look what the organization is doing where you're working at and see what you can repurpose yourself and what are the things that you can share, right? So if you're creating, let's say, a blog, you can always, out of that blog, make like a couple of small posts. Or, for example, if you are making every single week one post with one tip, after like a month or more, you can create a long piece of content, an article with all of the tips in one place, right? So try to repurpose, try to recycle. This is a term that's not only being used in the real world, but also in marketing, because I feel like people often struggle with just creating from the scratch. So try to see always what is out there that you can use to basically start somewhere and have an idea instead of starting with a blank page. Another technique is called copy technique, and this one is a very simple one. So basically, when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of followers yet, one thing you can do is you can find people in your industry who inspire you, and then basically try and see what are the best content types and content pieces that they have made in the recent months that generated a lot of engagement. So when I was analyzing Stephen Bartlett, I could see that a lot of the posts that were successful had his face in a video format. Then also there were document posts which were very informative. There were also posts which were relevant to the specific thing happening at that time or specific news. And then finally, he had a lot of easy and short posts where people could quickly understand like a few tips or a learning that he had, and that really worked for him. So what I can do in this case, if I'm just starting out and I don't really know what works, I can see these different patterns, these different trends that he is making and that work for people, and I can try to copy the technique and make sure that people, for example, see some content which is easy and like super short. I can try out putting out some documents which are super informative and so forth, right? So not copying the content itself, but copying the technique. Another example is strong visuals. So if you, for example, are working at a company which is known and there's a like a recognizable branding, you can also start posting some posts which are branded with that company's branding and elements, because if people are connecting with the brand itself, they will immediately engage, they will like it, and you will get more engagement right away. So if you're working at a company which has that connection, that strong connection with everybody, a big audience, you can try to leverage that for yourself too. Another thing to remember is that when you're creating content, remember that people that gain followers and have big audiences, they are also a place of news for that industry professionals. So if you want to be followed more, if you want to have like more engagement, remember to talk about what's new in the industry, different trends, and then help out and educate your fellow professionals from the same industry to make sure that you establish that professional image and professional relationship. So remember that when you're creating content, you also want to make sure that people come to your profile because they know that you're actually posting a lot about the latest things in the industry. And one of the final examples here is Quora. So maybe some of you are aware of it, maybe some of you are not, but Quora is often used for all kinds of questions, and people are answering to those questions and leaving their answers, and then the best answers gets upvoted. So this is what Quora is used for. And when you're struggling with ideas and when you're not sure what to write about, you can go to Quora. You can write, for example, in this case, gaming industry, right? And you can see either all types of, or you can click on questions, and you can actually see what are the most asked, top voted questions that people ask within that industry. And what you can do with that information is that you can actually take it and write a content piece answering to one or two questions. And I mean, if like 200 people had that question, I guess more people have it, right? So finding already existing questions that people have about your niche, about your industry, will help you to understand what kind of content is needed and would come as educational for them. At the end of the day, when we're talking about what you write, what you could write about, it's important to understand like there's no one formula. And when we're writing, we can write about professional experiences, we can write about book recommendations, industry news, personal stories, current employer, colleagues, projects, and results. Like there's a bunch of different topics that you can write about. But at the end of the day, it's always the personal stories and various kind of results and numbers that really grab people's attention. So at the end of the day, you can write about anything. You can even write about your hobbies and, whether you ran a marathon, and you can write about how that was like teaching you and strengthening your willpower. So it's all about the perspective. And again, sharing something which is not generic, but rather is a little piece of you, a little story about how your professional life is looking like, or what are some of the experiences that you have encountered. Here are a few examples. So again, looking at what is really trendy or what people write about, it's events, it's theme, sharing some personal stories plus adding a few tips at the end of it. There's also engaging with audience through polls. So we talked about it. Statistics, right? Something a lot of people love to see. We also have company news, people writing about different trends, people sharing their knowledge in a document format. So you can see a lot of it is like repeating, but still it means that it is working. And finally, here are a few people that you can get inspired by. So definitely check out their profiles, see what kind of content they're producing and how they're building their audience. I bet there's lots of more people to get inspired by, but these are a few that I would recommend. And then again, always try to find people from your industry who are already in a place where you would like to be in the future. Here is an example from the day when we coached an IT company in Denmark, where we actually took 5 people and 5 people who were not really posting a lot, and we coached them and they made their own original storytelling posts with different stories, but kind of in a way still connected to the company that they work at. And in that one day, they generated 13,000 views with their own original content pieces. So this is again another example why we need to create content, why we're talking about it. It's because it is, in a way, when you master it, it is beneficial for you and it is very beneficial for the company that you represent. Remember that everybody's journey is different. So when you begin writing content, it's important that you stay consistent. And after a while, whether that's like 2, 3, 4 months, you'll start seeing first results. So until then, what you gotta do is you gotta stay consistent and stay motivated, and maybe get like an accountability buddy to help you out with staying consistent. But at the end of the day, it is all worth it, because after a while it picks up and the audience starts to grow. And this is an example of how a person began their story, and then this is after a year, over 1 million views in impressions. So again, every journey is different. It's just important to stick with what you want to achieve and be motivated and consistent. As much as it is important to talk about content creation and how to create content, what are the different strategies, it is very important to also talk about the engagement and how much you can engage on LinkedIn, what benefits it has for you and your profile and your personal brand, and what actions you can take to boost your engagement and engage yourself. So first of all, when we're talking about engaging and engagement, tagging people and companies seems like a very natural thing to do, but something that a lot of people forget. So when you want more people to engage with your content, remember to tag specific people who are related with your content in your posts, in your visuals. Only tag the relevant people, as I mentioned, and don't spam your connections by tagging people that don't have anything to do with your post. And of course, know that mass tagging can result in drop in your post views, so try to avoid that. And I do sometimes see like people tagging lots of their friends, lots of their colleagues in the comment section. That could be a strategy that you can use a few times in case, for example, if you want to launch something, if you're launching something and you have to get a lot of eyeballs on your post. So in those cases, definitely you can try to do that. But all the other times, try avoiding mass tagging and make sure that you're tagging the people who are connected with your post. Another thing when it comes to engagement is, of course, engaging under your own posts. So I do see that a lot of the times people would create an amazing post, sometimes even a viral one. They would get a lot of comments and they would just not respond. And it would be like half a day without no comments, without responding to your comments under your posts. So that's like a no-go strategy for anyone on LinkedIn. And as you can see in the example on the left, you can see that the reach is not that big, and then there's some comments, but the author is not responding to those. So that is actually minimizing your reach just because people are commenting. And if you would comment back, you would actually boost your post. And since you're not doing so, you're not helping yourself out here. Also, another thing, imagine that LinkedIn is called social media for a reason, right? And that is because we want to be social with each other. And when you're not responding to somebody after just a couple of hours or the same day, you're not being really sociable. Because imagine a situation where I would come to you and I would say hi, and then you would say hello back, but after 24 hours. That's not something we would call a social behavior, which is why, again, we want to make sure that people feel like we are talking and communicating in real life, but on LinkedIn, right? And then, example on the right, you can see that the post has many more thousands of impressions. And also, the strategy that was used there, people were, of course, commenting, and then the author is engaging back and responding, and not only saying, thank you and I agree with you, but also one of the best strategies here is actually to respond back with some questions, with a meaningful comment, if there is space for that. If there's no, you can always say just thank you. But if there's space for that, you can always start a discussion, and that would again will boost your post. Now, social listening is something you should also be aware of. So it is translated as listening to social networks. And when people follow the post they're interested in, mentioned or tagged, and react to them, we call this social listening. So remember that not only you should engage with comments that you get under your posts, and whether that's coming from company profiles or people, but you should also engage with posts where you're being tagged. And whether that's just leaving a like, or, for example, commenting back under the post or giving it a repost, that would be a great way to engage, because then it will encourage other people tagging you more, sharing your thoughts, reposting, and so forth, right? So just really acknowledging the person who is posting something and mentioning you in it, or your company. Here are a few examples of how you could comment back when there are special things, like somebody announces a new job or promotion, or somebody else shares that they had a meeting with you at an event, or, for example, under a post about industry trends or news, a post which is asking for advice or your opinion, and so forth, right? So these are a few examples. I hope you can get a little inspiration from them. I know that in the case where you have no idea how to respond, you can always go ahead and ask ChatGPT. But other than that, I think like even a very simple and maybe some people might call it a generic comment, would still acknowledge the other person and help you to both either improve your own post or improve their post.
Let's talk about network growth. When you want to establish a strong professional brand and a strong personal brand, it's also important to add new people to your network who might be benefiting from your content or who might be a good beneficial connections to you. And there are a couple of ways, so let's get through those ways and let me show you how you can expand your network and make sure that you have the right connections. So there are these few different ways, for to be exact, to connect with other people. One is instant connect. So this is very simple, you all know it. You're just clicking connect and that's about it. Then we have personalized invite, in-mail, and a QR code. Personalized invite is when you're adding a note to your invitation and the person who gets your invite is actually seeing that invitation and seeing your message, and it's a bit more clear why you're inviting that person. So when you're sending a personalized invite, it is also standing out, especially if you see that a person is a very popular person, has a lot of connections, and probably gets a lot of invites. You can use this function to stand out from the crowd and really grab that person's attention. So again, try to be short, try to say hello, try to say why you're inviting them, or try to message already with some kind of a proposal if you see that there's a place for that. As you can see in the example here, when somebody is inviting you, or in this case inviting me, and I get like a message with the invitation, I can see the message, I can click on see more, and it really right away stand out, and I'm just excited and interested to see what this person is trying to tell me. Another way to connect with somebody is to send them an email. So this is a function, or this is a way to connect with somebody if you have LinkedIn Premium. And an email is sort of like an email, but on LinkedIn, you can have a subject and you can have like a name on it. You can also write a way longer message than what the character limitations are on a simple personalized message when you're connecting with somebody. And this also allows you to send emails to people whom you don't necessarily want to add to your connection circle and whom you maybe cannot reach otherwise. So this is another way to send like a longer, more personalized message to somebody and be totally direct about your goals and needs. One more way how you can connect with somebody is by using a QR code. So all of us, if you open your LinkedIn mobile application and click on search, you can see there's like a little icon on the right top corner, which looks like a square. If you click on it, you can actually see your QR code. Other people can scan yours, or you can download your own code as a PDF or as a picture and save it. And then usually what we would do is we would go to different events and we would put our code on our phone screens as like a lock screen background photo, and then when we talk with somebody during the event, we could easily say, okay, here it is, like scan my QR code, and they would easily connect with you. So this is another hack how you can connect with people. Of course, they would still have to click connect. Like the QR code does not like automatically do that, but it's an easier way to show somebody your profile and for them to find you. I know also it's difficult sometimes, because the last name or your name might be difficult to pronounce, and there's loud music, you're at an event or somewhere you want to connect with somebody, so it's just way more easier with a QR code. When we're talking about a cold outreach strategy, and we have another course on sales, LinkedIn sales. So we deep dive into, cold outreach and like other tactics. But in here, I would just want to mention that when you're outreaching somebody who doesn't know you, remember you have to have an optimized profile, which you already know how to do that. You also have to research people and get to know more about them, right? Add them to your network, send the right message, and then engage with their content. Like, that's an amazing cold outreach strategy. It's not only just sending that one message like, hey, do you want to buy my product? Do you want to buy my service? It won't really work, but it's much more. Like, your profile optimization is a part of your cold outreach strategy if you're planning to do some sales, some more direct messaging to your connections. And of course, when it comes to LinkedIn, there are some mistakes that people do, and here are a couple of them that I want to highlight. So, first of all, unorganized LinkedIn profile. I think we covered that multiple times now. Incorrect LinkedIn search. So, remember that there's also all filters function, which gives you many more filters to search people by. Sending invites automatically, right? So there's a lot of third-party tools that you can use to send invites. So you must be careful and cautious about using those tools because sometimes users get banned. So if you're using one of those tools, remember, just be cautious. Don't overuse it. Don't abuse that tool, and you'll be fine. Not personalizing messages. So again, if you're reaching out to somebody to be a part of your network, try to be as personal as possible because that's what people like. Misspelling names in invitations, try to avoid that. That's sometimes, can be like a conversation starter in a fun way if you can do it like that. But otherwise, you can appear as not really looking into somebody's profile. Posting content which is not really valuable, that's a big mistake because people will quickly get bored of it. Not posting at all, that's also a mistake. So I think now you know how to do that too. And trying to sell in the first message, it's never a good strategy to, offer something right away because you're not really sure if that person needs it. So instead of doing that, there's many other ways how you can go about this. But again, that's why we have another course. If you want to learn about sales, definitely check it out. As much as it is important to build a strong personal brand, it cannot go without having a strong community. Because if you have a strong brand, it means you have an audience which is engaging and active and supportive, which means that you have a strong community around yourself. So let's talk and let's see what are a few ways how we can build a strong and supportive community to help you grow as well. First of all, one of the ways how you can do that is, of course, to run your own newsletter. So newsletters is a great way to, again, create a community, create a lot of, build a subscribers list, people who are often wanting to read your newsletters. And people choose to whether like launch those newsletters once a week, bi-weekly newsletters, monthly newsletters, right? And the most important thing is that people are finding a niche which really resonates with their audience, and then in that way they're building that community and they're serving really top-notch content for them once in a while throughout the newsletters. And again, that creates that bond and people start recommending you, and you have that amazing place where you see your followers, you see your subscribers grow every single week. One more way how you can build a community is, of course, creating audio events on LinkedIn. I think most of the times people say to me that they have not tried them out, they have not even participated in one as a listener. So again, if you have not tried this out, audio events is like a great way to do that. You can easily set it up. You don't have to have like specific camera equipment. You don't have to have lighting equipment. None of that is needed. You can just be sitting on your couch, recording an episode and talking with some really interesting people. So in this way, like running virtual audio events once a month, twice a month, or whatever the schedule you want to choose, can definitely allow you to build an active audience, because during these audio events or live streams on LinkedIn, people can really comment, ask a question, engage with you. And this is what people value, especially like when you're building a community. People really value your time and the ability to ask you a question or a few. Without the two ways that I've already mentioned, so it's like newsletters, showcasing different things, LinkedIn audio events, doing interviews, having conversations, celebrating something. There's also a way to build a community through LinkedIn groups. LinkedIn groups are not like the most active place on LinkedIn where people are talking, but there are some LinkedIn groups that are being more active. So it all comes down to a person. You have to choose like a specific niche and theme that people would really love to, engage within. And the most important thing with groups, and why a lot of groups are actually dead, or so to say, not active, is because people won't start creating content themselves. When it comes to the active groups, what I notice is that people are not afraid to post in those groups. So, as an example of a good and active group I saw recently is, for example, a group where people can invite each other for business lunch. So it's a LinkedIn group which is connecting all kinds of professionals. There's no specific industry, and people just post about like, hey, I will be in this city and I would love to have a productive business lunch with somebody who is interested in this, and then people meet, right? So it's like really encouraging and accepting, and anybody can post. So this is something you should think about if you're deciding to build a community and use LinkedIn groups for that. We have talked a lot about content creation, a lot about personal branding, but behind all of it, there's still one more thing that we have to cover, and that is making data driven decisions and making those decisions to actually help you grow faster. So let's see what are those decisions and how you can utilize some of the data and analytics that you see on LinkedIn. First of all, when we're looking at our network, remember that you have to clean it up once in a while. You can always see how many connections, how many followers do you have, but it's important to keep it tidy and once in a while clean it up, because the more relevant connections you have, the more people will see your content and engage with it. If you have a lot of connections which are seeing your content and not engaging with it, it will actually minimize the reach for all of your posts. So we want to avoid that, right? Now, if you have some negative people, trolls in your network, I would also recommend removing them or at least muting them, because that also, if they're commenting in a negative way and you're seeing that, you're also being associated with that person. So just avoid that, try to remove these kind of fake profiles or bot profiles from your network. And again, refreshing your network really helps with the algorithm. So if people again are more relevant to you, it's a bigger chance that you and your content will reach like a broader audience than if you still have people who are reading your content but are not really sure if they need to be reading that and if they're even interested. A/B testing. Now, that's also a really great topic. First of all, when you're creating content, it's important to A/B test. Allow that to yourself. Try to see what works better. Try to analyze which post is getting more impressions, the one with or without the picture. if you're getting more impressions on your polls or if you're getting more impressions on your videos, right? So A/B testing is a good thing, and you can really, looking into that, adjust your strategy and have better results. Simple as that. One more tip is, of course, ask your audience. Polls or questionnaires are out there not for just, some silly reason to have some jokes around on the platform, which you can do as well. But it's out there for you to talk with your audience and really ask them what is it that they enjoy the most. And after a while, when you have been creating content for a couple of months, you can definitely ask people, like, what do they enjoy the most, what would they like to see more of, what is it that they don't really find valuable, right? So like just being in engaging and interactive with your audience really helps for you to understand as well which direction you want to go and which direction your audience expects or wants you to go. Finally, I would love to talk about the social media etiquette. So, there are a lot of different ways how you can engage on social media, but like any other platform, there are some rules as well on LinkedIn that you should be aware of. Some rules that are, unwritten, but they do exist, and it also affects your personal brand, right? You might be thinking, why do I need to take care of the way I behave, talk, and respond on social media? Again, if you are doing that, it shows your value, it shows your expertise. It can help you foster meaningful relationships, improve your personal image, and create confidence, right? So if you're being active online, if you're posting, you're also creating your image and creating that really strong confidence in yourself as a professional. It is important because 78% of business professionals believe that a lack of good manners can damage a company's reputation. So, again, coming back to the point that even if you're commenting somewhere about some things around politics or wars or something else, some political situations, or even, like leaving some negative comments for somebody else, that might also affect your organization because you are one of the ambassadors of your organization. So this is one more reason why it is really important to remember that on LinkedIn we're not just under some fake name and fake last name and fake account, but we're actually representing a company that we work for. And just a short exercise, I really want you to think, if you have ever received a negative comment, how did that affect you? Did it discourage you? Just, pause the video and think about if you have ever gotten one. If you haven't, that's pretty clear. And just think about that whole situation, how you acted if you have gotten some negative comments. Here are the ways how you can react to negative comments. So first of all, you can always respond like promptly, be polite, respectful, listen in to what the person is saying, acknowledge the issue, learn from that feedback, right? Like use humor to kind of, settle down the whole discussion. And don't feed the trolls, don't take it personally, because most of the times when people comment in a bad way, like, or they're bashing us, it's not about us, it's most of the times about them. And delete the comments depending on the situation, meaning that if it's like a comment which is directly insulting you, you can definitely delete it. If it's a comment which has some criticism but it's based on something, then maybe it's like worth just responding politely, and that's about it. And remember, we went through this course and we talked about some of these things that I really want you to take home with you. First of all, personal brand is your reputation, right? What you have about yourself online, it's a part of your image, and it's important to foster it and maintain it and have the image that you want to other people to see, right? The visibility of your image should be in the way that you want others to perceive you. Check your social selling index once in a while just to see, how you're doing. That can be like a really great metric for that. Optimize your profile. I think that's the biggest homework. Create organic content. Try that out. Don't be afraid. Leave all of those bad comments and imposter syndrome outside of your door. Engage with content made by others, which will eventually help you to enhance your growth. Expand your network in the ways that we've talked about, and of course try to write a personalized message if there is space for that. Foster your community on LinkedIn. You now know, there are a few ways to do so, content creation being the biggest one, but then groups, then newsletters, audio events, and any other new functions that LinkedIn introduces. Make decisions based on data, because that's important, right? And follow social media etiquette. That's also something that will help you with your brand and your personal image. Thank you so much for being a part of this course. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that you leave us your feedback, and I hope that you will find the materials added to this course also valuable. If you do have some more questions, feel free to write them here on the platform or send us an email. We can also help you with consultations, audits, ads, content creation, and really anything else around LinkedIn. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you from myself and say a thank you from my team for choosing this course, for choosing Linkedist, and I wish you an amazing journey with your personal brand on LinkedIn. Finally, I would love to talk about the social media etiquette. So, there are a lot of different ways how you can engage on social media, but like any other platform, there are some rules as well on LinkedIn that you should be aware of. Some rules that are, unwritten, but they do exist, and it also affects your personal brand, right? You might be thinking, why do I need to take care of the way I behave, talk, and respond on social media? Again, if you are doing that, it shows your value, it shows your expertise. It can help you foster meaningful relationships, improve your personal image, and create confidence, right? So if you're being active online, if you're posting, you're also creating your image and creating that really strong confidence in yourself as a professional. It is important because 78% of business professionals believe that a lack of good manners can damage a company's reputation. So, again, coming back to the point that even if you're commenting somewhere about some things around politics or wars or something else, some political situations, or even, like leaving some negative comments for somebody else, that might also affect your organization because you are one of the ambassadors of your organization. So this is one more reason why it is really important to remember that on LinkedIn we're not just under some fake name and fake last name and fake account, but we're actually representing a company that we work for. And just a short exercise, I really want you to think, if you have ever received a negative comment, how did that affect you? Did it discourage you? Just, pause the video and think about if you have ever gotten one. If you haven't, that's pretty clear. And just think about that whole situation, how you acted if you have gotten some negative comments. Here are the ways how you can react to negative comments. So first of all, you can always respond like promptly, be polite, respectful, listen in to what the person is saying, acknowledge the issue, learn from that feedback, right? Like use humor to kind of, settle down the whole discussion. And don't feed the trolls, don't take it personally, because most of the times when people comment in a bad way, like, or they're bashing us, it's not about us, it's most of the times about them. And delete the comments depending on the situation, meaning that if it's like a comment which is directly insulting you, you can definitely delete it. If it's a comment which has some criticism but it's based on something, then maybe it's like worth just responding politely, and that's about it. And remember, we went through this course and we talked about some of these things that I really want you to take home with you. First of all, personal brand is your reputation, right? What you have about yourself online, it's a part of your image, and it's important to foster it and maintain it and have the image that you want to other people to see, right? The visibility of your image should be in the way that you want others to perceive you. Check your social selling index once in a while just to see, how you're doing. That can be like a really great metric for that. Optimize your profile. I think that's the biggest homework. Create organic content. Try that out. Don't be afraid. Leave all of those bad comments and imposter syndrome outside of your door. Engage with content made by others, which will eventually help you to enhance your growth. Expand your network in the ways that we've talked about, and of course try to write a personalized message if there is space for that. Foster your community on LinkedIn. You now know, there are a few ways to do so, content creation being the biggest one, but then groups, then newsletters, audio events, and any other new functions that LinkedIn introduces. Make decisions based on data, because that's important, right? And follow social media etiquette. That's also something that will help you with your brand and your personal image. Thank you so much for being a part of this course. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that you leave us your feedback, and I hope that you will find the materials added to this course also valuable. If you do have some more questions, feel free to write them here on the platform or send us an email. We can also help you with consultations, audits, ads, content creation, and really anything else around LinkedIn. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you from myself and say a thank you from my team for choosing this course, for choosing Linkedist, and I wish you an amazing journey with your personal brand on LinkedIn.